It's your host, Tommy Talks, and welcome to the Not So Smooth. What is this thing called again? The Not So Smooth Road or something?
I think
like
so.
that.
Not so smooth.
Okay, so clearly,
not so smooth.
Yeah, Not So Smooth Road. So after one episode of saying the Not So Smooth Road, I decided to stop saying the Not So Smooth Road. So it's gonna be the NSSR from now on. That's much easier for me to say. So we'll start over. Tommy Talks, and welcome to the NSSR. We're encouraging you to run your own race to medical school one day at a time. So today I have one of my favorite human beings in the world. Miss Kafayat is here, and I'm going to let her shortly introduce herself, and then we'll start.
Hi, my name is Kafayat. What do you want to know?
Tell me your whole life story.
Alright, my name is Kafia. I am a fourth year medical student here at Mayo, and I am on the inaugural episode of the Not So Smooth Road.
Yay! The NSSR.
Yes.
That actually sounds like a Soviet territory. You should probably stop saying that, but it sounds cool, so I'm gonna keep saying it. Alright, so thank you first of all for coming. I really appreciate it. Kafayat is who I call Superwoman of Med School. She's a wonderful, wonderful human being, and I'm very, very happy that she is my first guest on this episode.
I am honored.
All right. So, what I would like you to do, first of all, is just give the viewers a 10,000-foot view of how did you deviate from this med school mold. So we always talk about, the thing they preach to us in college is like, you do a biology major or some science major, and then you spend 4 years in college, and you go straight to med school, and then you finish med school, and go straight to residency, and all these things. So, how did you deviate from that? What was your non-traditional journey, big picture?
Sure, so big picture, first my major was computer science.
Okay.
Then I worked in consulting for 13 years. Then I decided I was going to, do this medical school thing. And so I had to kind of like go and marry up my prereqs and make sure that everything was in line for applications. And then we go through this whole process of trying to figure out application when you're not a traditional student in a school that you graduated over a decade ago from. But anyway, went through that process, applied, and that's how I got into medical school. So at Mayo. So 1,000-foot view.
There you go. So that's just, and there's more because there's like half the story that she hasn't told yet. We're gonna get there. But I want you to, because many people right now are maybe coming out of college. Many people are at the beginning of that story, where they've done a different major, they're in a different career. Some people are at that point where they decide, this is what I want to do, and some people are trying to figure out how to now put that into action. So there's different stages to this story. I want you to kind of walk us through what that decision process was like, how you got there, how you navigated it, conversations you had to have, things like that.
Okay. So let's start from the very beginning.
All right. Genesis chapter 1.
Yes, literally. So way back when I was a wee child in Nigeria.
Okay, not that far back.
Way back
we don't have that kind of time.
But it plays into it.
This is not a testimony in church. We cannot start from the beginning, okay?
Fine.
By the way, if my accent changes, I'm Nigerian, get over it. It's gonna happen.
And I'm Nigerian, so we
there
play off each other. But okay, but to be fair, back in Nigeria, high school, you kind of had to declare early on whether you were a science person or an arts person because they kind of push you in one direction. And Nigerian parents, I love them, but they push parents a lot towards medicine, law, accounting. Those are the major ones that you basically get pushed into. So, well, back in Nigeria, I was, initially my parents and I, well, my parents more than I at the time, wanted me to do medicine. So I was a science major and I took all the science courses, and I declared early that I was going to do medicine. And then when I came to the US, I found out, the medical system, but I was also interested in like computer science. I was interested in how computers work, what made them take, how things go. So, and then I found out when I was trying to figure out my university life, that America had this great option where you could do whatever major you wanted to do, but still do medicine.
Called
so
college.
It's amazing. So I was like, well, this sounds like a plan. So I was like, that way I get to have my cake and eat it. So I came in, and my undergrad, I did computer science as my undergrad, and then I also was taking the medical prereqs, to satisfy the parents, right? And so I did, the tradition. I did the, 1 year of biology, 1 year of chemistry, 1 year of organic chem, the basic prereqs of pre-med, but I was a declared computer science major. And then in my undergrad, you do, when you're doing these kinds of things, in your summers usually you do like summer internships or research and things like that. So I ended up doing internships with the company I ended up working with, Deloitte, my sophomore to junior summer, my junior to senior summer.
Okay.
So by the time I was graduating, I had a full-time offer with Deloitte.
We ain't mad at it.
And I was like, let's see.
More debt.
Like let's all these years of medical school versus hey, let's just go work and let's stop making the money and let's be independent, let's go live life. And so I was like, hey, and at the time I was also kind of struggling with the fact that with medical school it seemed more like my parents' desire for me versus what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay,
that part right there.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go do this computer science thing. And so I went, if anyone's worked in consulting, it's an awesome lifestyle. You get to travel wherever, you get to do these awesome projects.
Can I just give a shout out to her career? Her career was the reason why we got to stay in the awesome hotel we did when we went to AMEC. Like, she has miles for days. And I need those miles someday. That's part of why she's here. So I can guilt her into giving me said miles.
Whatever.
She wants to go to Australia.
Whatever. I'm saving up. I'm keeping my miles for that trip to Australia.
I am claiming the miles in Jesus' name. Okay? I'm claiming them in advance. Because you don't need them. I'm telling you. You don't need them.
Whatever.
I'm a young one. I'm not traveled.
So anyways.
It's not working. It's okay.
No. If you know how my family members have been trying to pry those miles out of me. No. So anyways. So it was great. I enjoyed the work I did with consulting because it was very dynamic. You go to a different client each day and you have a different problem you're trying to solve and you're trying to be creative about how to solve it. And I enjoyed the work and I enjoyed everything. But the pathway with consulting is you kind of get, the higher you go, the more you start thinking about selling more work. Okay. And I'm into, and so you kind of step away a little bit more, you go into more of a managerial role, which in and of itself is not bad, but I was more interested in doing it. And so the more that difficulty was coming up, the more I started thinking about, well, okay, what else would I do if not this? And over the years, before this happened, I'd always kind of like, some things will come up when, I'll see something or I'll hear something or family issues, someone will have a health issue and I keep thinking about that medicine thing, I wonder what would have happened if I'd gone that route, just kind of think about it every once in a while, I come up
and God is like this.
And you're like, and I'm just like, yes, literally. But it's like, it's very easy for you to, when you are comfortable and things are going well and, it's very easy for you to just get complacent and not want to rock the boat. And that was the case because this, again, this inner voice will come up like, the medicine thing, that thing we talked about, like, yeah, whatever. And I just keep doing my thing. And especially when, life is happening, right? So, but then it got to a point where I think it was when I had the twins, I had a good amount.
Pause. She has twins. 2 of her 3 children are twins. Like how?
Yeah. Well, these things happen. I could explain the biology to you.
Nah, man.
One is zygotic and dizygotic twins, but no. But yes. So I think again, life has a way of just kind of you just keep going with life, marching on through life, and things are going fine. But when I had the kids, the twins, I had like my maternity leave, and there wasn't any work responsibilities, and that's when I really sat and I thought. That was when that was the first time busyness of life was not intruding, and I kind of sat down and I really thought, I'm like, well, where do you see yourself? Like, okay, do you want to keep doing this? Is there something else you think you should be doing? And where do you see yourself in the next couple of years, and
Right.
is that aligning with where you're going right now? And if not, do you want to do something about it? And again, it's very easy to say, well, no, everything is fine, it's comfortable. But I was at that point in my life, I was like, no, I think it's easy for me to keep doing that.
Right.
But if it's come up, if this voice, this inner medicine voice, has come up so many times, it's worth, you owe it to yourself to stop, listen, and try.
Yeah.
Is the way I saw it.
Okay.
You know, so I was like, okay, well, you know, why not? Like, what do I have to lose? And so I kind of talked to a couple of people. I talked to family. I talked to friends about what is God give this thing I'm about to do, just to kind of like make sure that I really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I was very careful about how much I talked to family, because I had like family in medicine that had been wanting me to do medicine, and I wanted to make sure that before I said anything to them, I had made a decision in myself. Right?
That's a
by
really
myself.
good. That's a
Because I
really
didn't want
good
to
point you bring up.
influence
Yeah.
my decision. Because
Right.
again, way back when I initially was supposed to do this, I stopped it because I felt they were influencing, and I wanted this to be my decision. And then once I did decide I was going to do this, and I kind of just did a lot of research, I kind of went back. I went back to my alma mater, which is 10 years ago, and I said,
Where'd you go?
Spelman College,
Hey.
HBCU, Atlanta, put it up. And I remember
We have to shout out the schools that brought us here. Okay.
Yes. I went to Spelman College, and I remember walking into the I went in one day, and they were having classes, and I was standing outside the teacher's office because I was trying to get a letter of recommendation from one of my teachers. Because again, part of this journey, and we'll talk when we get into the details of how this is. We can dive into
For
that a little
sure.
bit. But I remember one of the students was waiting for office hours with the math teacher, and she's like, "Oh, so what are you here for? Like, what subject? You know, because I'm trying to see her for this subject." And I thought to myself, "Oh, bless your heart, you think I'm going here? That's so awesome! Thank you. You just made my decade." but it was a beautiful experience. But so I went to my kind of did my research and figured out what I needed to do to get into medical school. Figured out what I had, what my gaps were, and try to figure out ways to bridge the gaps. And again, I'm sure she'll ask me more questions detailed about it. So that's why I'm not gonna go into that. And then I just kind of started doing the process. And again, the other key thing was before I went through this, I kind of talked to my family. And this is key because medical school is a long journey, and it can be stressful. In fact, it almost guaranteed to be stressful.
I remember.
It is guaranteed
to
be
stressful.
So you need all the support you can get from everyone around you.
Yes.
So I kind of reached out to a bunch of people, made sure everybody was on board. And my mom, I reached out to her because I was like, I'm about to go do this. I have kids, and them kids need to be taken care of. And I know that life is going to get busy with medical school, so I need all the help from family to help with my kids. And then once I felt like I had that buy-in and I had the support, then I kind of went down the road. And so applied, got in, and the rest is kind of history. And we're still going through it right now.
Yeah.
So
It's a history in the making.
yes.
So with that, you brought up a lot of wonderful points, and I want to dig into some of them. One of the ones that you brought up very, very early on was, making sure that this was your decision. And that's a theme that I've seen as I mentor people. Some people are in it because, one prophetess spoke to them way when they were 8 years old and said, "You'll be a doctor in Jesus' name." And everybody said, "Amen." And then, that was their destiny from now on. But, it's hard when you are in a situation where you're doing something that is not necessarily for you. And so the first question I want to ask is, how difficult is it to step away from something that has been kind of pushed on you and say, this is not for me right now. This is not what I want to do at this moment. It's not my decision. How difficult is that?
It was, different people have ways to kind of handle that.
True.
There are some people that are more confrontational. They will go and I'm like, I'm not doing this, and fight. Against the opposition, right? Who's do this. I am more of my personality is more, I found over the years that I kind of function more on a quietly doing versus talking about doing. And so what that means is when I was thinking about my, the major, right, and computer science, right. Initially, they were like, oh, you should do biology and pre-med, right, because that's the most straightforward path to medical school. You're doing the biology, you're doing all the course. Like, yeah, no, I kind of like computer science. But, the good news is I can still do the pre-med courses and still do my computer science. So, hey, everybody wins, right? And so that's what I did. And that's how I was able to kind of get that going. And then from that path on, it was like, okay, when the internships came along, it's like, hey, I could be, because of course then you get to the summer and you're having the struggle of, could you be doing like research, which is what everybody's doing over the summer if you're going to medical school, versus should I be doing and my internship that I ended up doing with the consulting firm that I ended up working with. So those were like, those were key decision points along the way. It was like I chose to go one way that was clearly pointing me in one direction without necessarily fighting the system or making too much noise about it and just doing it, So again, that's me. That's how I handle certain things. And at a certain point when my path was clearly not going medical, right? Because I wasn't, I was graduating, I wasn't studying for the MCATs or anything like that. That was when I kind of like spoke to my brothers at this point in time and my parents, and I said, look, I think we know this is where we can see where this path is going, and this is this is kind of like what I want to do right now.
Right.
And I understand that you guys want the best for me, and I understand that you guys have this vision for me, but I'm not having that vision for myself right now. So I would rather see this through. And if this, and again, if this vision, which at this point in time, they could come back and say, when we told you to do this back then, you told us where you
said our mouths were spelling.
They could be, right? But they're gracious brothers, they're good brothers.
Oh,
they
shout out to our brothers.
Yes, they're gracious brothers, they're good brothers, and so they just quietly say they are but they're nice about it. But at the end of the day, I have no regrets about my path. However circuitous it was, because I picked things along the way that I don't think I'd have gotten otherwise.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, with that decision to go back to medical school, obviously, like you said, you need all the support. This thing is too difficult to try to do yourself. But the other thing I wanted to ask you is, what were some of the fears that you had in making that decision, and how did you navigate that?
Fears. Well, okay, I guess the first one would be just kind of going back to the student life after not being a student for over a decade. I'm like, I am going back to a classroom. I haven't been in a classroom or seen a darn book in a while. I'm like, is my brain still functioning? And I have to go back and dig deep for all this organic chemistry kind of stuff. So that was my first, just kind of like the transition from like going from a working professional to back to school life was one big one. The other one was just, financial uncertainty. So again, as a consultant, you're making a pretty decent amount of money. And so going from that to nada was
like literally, we're not
nothing. Just kind of like having my making sure my finances were in place to kind of understand that the drought was coming for a 4 or 5 year drought thing. And then so that was like, so financial, just kind of like the financial affairs and the stability of it. Those were the biggest things. Everything else is like, oh, you know what, I'll deal with it. We'll figure it out. But I think going into it, those were like the 3 biggest things that I just kind of had to like wrap my head around and prepare myself mentally and the rest of us, or prepare everybody mentally for. That's the main thing.
The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, regarding this journey is, how did you navigate the new requirements? Because obviously, like you said, you've been out of college for about a decade, done a whole lot of career amazing work, but you still have to come back and marry that with the hardcore requirements for med school. So how did you look for those things? How did you find that information? How did you get that information for yourself?
Okay, so we're talking tactically now. So tactically, once I decided to, first step was just deciding I wanted to do this. Second step was looking at the way I did it was I basically kind of first of all looked at schools. So I kind of just looked at it from a tactical perspective. Okay, so let's talk about what do we need for an application, right? You need your prereqs, you need your medical school prereqs, right? You need usually research experience of some sort, usually volunteer experience of some sort, usually shadowing experiences of some sort. And then you have your letters of recommendation from your people that write your letters, and then your essay, so to speak. Those are kind of like the main building blocks of an application, right?
And those things can vary a little bit in what kind of make up those categories, but those are
like the broad categories. So let's take it one by one. I kind of looked at my prereqs.
Yes.
Luckily, because I had done that computer science and pre-med idea thing, most of the prereqs I had.
Good.
And yes, my prereqs were like over a decade old, which for some schools apparently was not acceptable because some schools were asking for your requirements to be within 5 years. I automatically nixed those schools from my list.
There you go.
So yes, because I refused to go redo all those subjects again. Because a lot of those subjects are sequential. You can't take you can't take organic chemistry until you take basic chemistry, and then you can't take advanced biology until you take the first year of biology, and you can't take calculus until you take things like that. So I didn't, to say I was going to now do all those now again when I'd done it before, not happening. So when I was looking at my schools, so I had most of the basic prereqs. I think the main thing I was missing at the time was like an extra semester of English.
Okay.
Because I was lazy and only did one semester of English, and most schools ask for 1 year, but whatever. The other thing I did was also I applied to. So most of the schools are covered by AMCAS. But TMD SAS, Texas is its own little country.
Hello to all my Texas friends.
Texas is its own little country.
Yes.
And Texas has all these wonderful medical schools.
We have 13 plus.
Yeah, and they have a
schools.
separate application process.
Yes.
But you pay one fee, and it covers all the
We
schools.
bless God.
Yeah. Schools give great scholarships even to out-of-state students, and their tuition is usually actually cheaper on average than all the other national medical schools and private schools. So I also did the TMD SAS application. So I picked my schools from again US News, and I did the Texas TMD SAS application, and then what I did from a prereqs perspective was I looked across all the schools that I was applying to, what were their specific prerequisites, what course requirements did they need. And what did I have?
Was that on their website?
It was.
Okay.
You not through their website. What you do is they have I've forgotten what it's called right now, but there is you can get the catalog for medical school.
Oh,
there
the
is
database.
The database.
Oh yeah, that's
I
right.
What it's called.
That's right.
But there is a database that you get that gives you all the medical schools, and you can see every single thing about it. The stats.
I think it's run by AMCAS.
I think it's run. You have to pay for it.
Yes.
And it's only a year subscription, so it's only valid for a year.
That's correct.
So if you're going to get it, you want to get it closer to when you want to apply.
Exactly.
Because it gives you the most updated requirements for each school, their statements, whatever the blurbs are, their statistics.
If they take international students.
If they take international students, what the secondary application fee might look like, what their deadlines will be like. It gives you all that information for each school, and you can literally search and it will filter out results for you, which is the beautiful thing about it. There is a book version and there's an online database version. I paid for the online. I used like an old version of the book to kind of get an initial idea of what most schools would be, and then closer to the time I paid for the online thing so I can get the most up-to-date information. But that's what I used to kind of look at what their course requirements were.
And I'll Google it and put the link to that on the screen as well.
I've forgotten the name right now, but that's what I used to figure out what the school requirements were. And any schools, again, I had that list of schools, but any schools that had things like, oh, we need your 5-year, your requirements to be 5 just come out. If I don't give scholarship, kind of things. And that's how kind of like shortened my list to the schools I eventually applied to. Yes. And then, sorry, prereqs, I didn't finish that.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So yes, I did the cross-referencing, and across the schools there were some subjects that came up that I didn't have from my prereqs, like biochemistry.
Yes.
Biochemistry is becoming a new requirement these days, especially since the MCAT now has a biochemistry component.
Yeah.
So biochemistry was one. Some schools ask for an advanced biology. So I did the basic 1 year of biology, but I needed to do something above the 1 year. So I did, so advanced biology, semester of advanced biology. Some schools ask for statistics.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember that.
And then I already knew that I needed to do an extra semester of English. So there were like 4 things I knew I needed to do across the different schools I was applying to. And so what I did was I found a local college that was near me.
Shout out to community colleges.
You gotta love them, man. Mm-hmm. They're cheap.
Very.
And I did like evening classes, worked out great because I'd finished work and then I'd come home, eat I was at home, was working from home, so it worked out great. But I'd finished lunch.
She already had this whole remote working thing.
It worked out great, man.
Okay.
And then I would, take a quick shower because again I was working from my home, so I was like, man, whatever. Take a shower, and then head out to class in the evenings from like 6 to 9 p.m. each evening. I think it was twice a week. 6 to 9 p.m.
So we talked about the thought process, we talked about the tactics, then we talked about the transition. How was that transition for you from working mom, working superhuman, working super everything,
whatever,
to med student superhuman, med student super everything?
Just kind of setting my mindset that look, this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna have to this is just something, it's a phase. You have to just deal with it like anything else in life. You kind of meet the challenges and you move on. And it's a story to tell the grandkids later. And so I think, and a lot of the way I approach a lot of things is, things happen, and, if everything was wonderful, if it was going to be easy, everybody would do it, right?
That's a good point.
So you just prepare yourself. If you have adequately, I'm a firm believer, if you have imagined what the worst case scenario will be and prepared yourself for that, then you can meet most of everything else. And does that make sense?
Okay.
It's kind of, and that's usually how I approach things. I'm like, okay, so if something is not going so well, which you can remember with certain subjects you have.
Subjects that shall not be named.
Subjects that shall not be named.
Anatomy, we're looking at you.
She has seen me in this action mode mentality.
Oh,
where,
God bless you, girl.
Anatomy was like, it's one of those rites of passage in medical school. You kind of go through it and you live with it and you say, I survived anatomy. And I remember when things are going, things are like really sketchy towards the end.
Like when we say sketchy, like, we mean sketchy.
Really sketchy. Enough said, they were sketchy.
We're talking about that today.
And we were, and I was like, like, hey, what's the worst that could happen? Okay, I have to remediate this. Well, and if we remediate,
bro,
hey.
I wasn't with you. I was not with. Let the record show. Let the record show that I was not with her on that remediation train. She was like, oh, what is the word? I was like, no, I reject in the name of Jesus. This course is too wicked for me to pass to go through twice.
I was like, okay, to be fair, yeah, she didn't get on the train with me, but again, I always kind of think, okay, what's the worst that could happen?
Fair enough.
How, and is the world gonna end? No. This is an appropriately named show, not so smooth. It wasn't a smooth journey, but we're here. We're still standing.
Amen.
And we're still alive. And we're getting through, right? Yes. But like anything else in life, nothing is worth having that you don't have to kind of work for.
True,
right?
Very, very.
If everything was easy,
everybody would do it.
Everybody would do it. And you don't have those war stories to tell later on. So yes.
We're not saying go and fight too.
No. But we're saying that, welcome the challenges,
yes,
work through them,
yes,
and then move on to
that in mind. How has your not so smooth journey shaped how you go through medical school? Because I expect it's different from me. It's very different from what I did. You were there. You were there. So how has what you've gone through and not going straight through helped you?
I think a lot of it is because I'm a little older, and just a little.
She looks like she's younger than I am.
Whatever. Because I'm a little older, I think I take a lot of things in stride. A lot more things in stride. So again, the disappointments. If I don't get that 90 something in an exam, I'm not gonna freak out. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't get a 90 something. It's a pass-fail course. We'll be okay. Kind of thing. Versus if I'd always been used to getting 90 somethings and now I'm not getting it because now I'm competing with people that are always getting 90 somethings.
Exactly.
You think about the fact that you're in a class of people that are all brilliant in their own rights. And there's always going to be someone in the middle, in the beginning, and the end.
This is true.
Of the spectrum.
This is true.
So if I happen to be the dullest in a class of brilliant people, I'm like, I'm living the dream right now. I'm just saying. So it's about putting things in, a lot of the way I've dealt with stuff is about putting things in perspective. Because I'm like, yes, I may have been the local champion of my high school way back in the day. But I mean, there's a lot of local champions here. So if we're all local champions, someone's always going to be in the middle, someone's going in the end. And, at the end of the day, am I learning? Do I understand the content, whatever it is? Do I understand it enough to speak to it? That's what I concern myself with. And the beauty of my school is the fact that we have a pass-fail system.
Amen.
So
hallelujah. Thank you.
It's like, it gives you the time to think about where you want to dedicate your energy. There are people that will take that to mean I should still get my 90s and I should still be top of the class. And to them, I say more power to you. For me, it gave me the opportunity to say, you know what? Instead of spending that extra 1 hour, 2 hours here studying for this particular thing, knowing I'm still probably going to get the same pass that I would have gotten without that 1 hour, 2 hours, I could spend more time with my family. And so it gives you that flexibility to say, where do I want to dedicate my time? Now, having said that, that doesn't mean don't know the material.
We did not say don't read your book.
No,
we did not say don't face your book.
Like anything else, a solid foundation it's you can't even put value on a solid foundation because some of the stuff that I learned back in poem physiology is coming back now that I'm looking at anesthesia, so to speak. A lot of it is coming up, and so so I'm not saying don't read, I'm not saying don't study, I'm saying don't concern yourself so much with studying for an exam. Concern yourself with understanding the material. So that later on, when it's, later on you can build on that solid foundation that you built. A big reason why I came into medicine was, being able to relate to the patient, being able to translate what I'm hearing in medical speak to the patient. Because I've seen it done to me where the physician is telling me big job and I'm like,
what you say?
Could you just break this down to me in language that is understandable? And so a lot of anytime I go into any, now that we're in clinical interactions, anytime I go into any clinical interaction, I try to think about what would I as a patient appreciate right now? Is it people talking at me and telling me all the scientific stuff, or someone that's just relating to me like a human being and just talking to me? And so even though, and they will say this, and this is again kind of coming back from my experience as being on the other side of it, as well as life experience, even though it's easy for you to kind of get on a rotation and you're trying to follow the book and you're trying to do these presentations and stuff, and you don't know where your place is on the team and you're not really sure about whether you should be doing something or not. I've never felt hesitant to just talk to the patient and just go in there and just hey, how are you doing today? And just relate, even if it was my first day, because I'm always like, look, people appreciate a human being. I may not know all the medical intricacies of the patient per se, but just seeing a friendly face and talking to someone can go a long way to alleviate their fears, whatever the case may be. So I've always made it a point through my experiences in life, and I try not to lose that through medical school. That view to let me relate to a patient as a fellow human being. I might still have some medical knowledge behind me, but even then I don't lose sight of that. And so I brought that with me, and that was one of the things I promised myself. One of the reasons that even drove me into medicine was trying to be a better human than some of the doctors I've come across.
Amen. So well said. So I want to say thank you. It was a pleasure to have you on here. So happy that you are my first guest, and I'm happy that we get to do this live. Because of COVID, I'm gonna have to do a couple of Zoom interviews, but I'm glad that you're here with me. She also sings, by the way. That's part of why she's here, because we're gonna do choir practice right after this. But if people are interested in contacting you, how do you want to be contacted? And I can cut this part out if you say.
No. It's not even that I'm not interested. I'm happy for people to contact me, but I'm not one of those. That social media thing. Yeah, I am abysmally sad with social media. I literally just created an Instagram account.
I will say I forced her to do that.
She made me do it, and I'm not as active as most other people are. So I guess I could create stuff like on Twitter.
She's gonna be on Twitter shortly.
I will create. She will make me create something on Twitter so people can reach out.
Yes.
And I do have an Instagram page.
Yes.
Now, courtesy of her. So yes, those are probably 2 ways you can reach me.
And also feel free to reach out to me as well. She's literally like right here.
Yeah,
so if you have a question or something that you'd like me to put you in more personal contact with her, if she's alright with that, I can definitely put you in contact with her. So feel free to reach out to me as well. And with that, I want to say thank you. Again, this is the NSSR. I'm going to keep saying that as awkward as it sounds, because it sounds pretty cool as well. This has been the NSSR, and this